Hi there. I'm on my way, I'm making it. I've got to make it show.
Oh, crap. Howdy, folks. I've seen a lot of complaints recently, actually all along since I've joined YouTube, and less so since I've moved to live video as well, but I've seen a lot of complaints about people saying that their First Amendment right to freedom of speech is being infringed somehow. No, it's not. Nothing YouTube does can possibly infringe on your freedoms of speech. Why? Well, here's why. The First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, under which YouTube and live video operate, being as they are in the United States, says, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. That is not the entire First Amendment, but that's the part that applies to freedom of speech. The operative words are Congress shall make no law. YouTube is a private entity. Live video is a private entity. My home is private. If you say something I don't like in my home, I can throw you out on your ear, and you have no right to complain that somehow your freedom of speech has been infringed upon. The First Amendment, none of the Constitution, in fact, applies to private entities. You can't go into Burger King, for example, and start hollering about how great McDonald's is and how Burger King sucks, and expect not to be thrown off the property, or, if you refuse to leave, arrested for trespassing. You can stand outside on the sidewalk on public property and yell and holler and do that all you want, but not on private property, not in a private domain. YouTube and live video are both private domains. They're private areas. They set the rules. And if you look in their terms of service, which very few people seem to do, you will find, as in every site that has an interchange of ideas, that they have their rules. And one of the things that is universal is that they have somewhere in there not only their specific rules about what their content, what the allowed content is, but the statement somewhere in there that they have the sole discretion, unquote, over what constitutes site content that is acceptable to them to put up on their sites. Now, recently there's been a bunch of upset about on YouTube about a fellow named Ginsburn, who had a video that quoted the Quran removed and his account deleted. YouTube is terrible about their giving warnings. In their terms of service, they say that they will give 2 warnings. But they also say that they will delete a person's account without warning if they deem it necessary. I have yet to see anyone who has been banned who has received those 2 warnings, or at least admits to having received those 2 warnings. Some of them may have. I don't believe every one of them is a liar. In the video in question on YouTube, I didn't see any violation of YouTube's specific terms of service. It was simply quotes of the Quran. Boy, talk about a stutter. I'm cuckoo for the Quran, I guess. I didn't see any violation there, in my opinion. However, I don't know what this person's other content was. I hadn't even heard of them before this. And I don't know if they were warned before. They say they were not. I'll accept them at their word based on YouTube's history. But the bottom line comes down to the First Amendment does not apply to these entities. Freedom of speech does not apply to YouTube or live video. You do not have freedom of speech on these sites. Okay? Understand that. You do not have the right to be here on either live video or on YouTube. It is a privilege granted to you by live video and by YouTube. Specifically, in both of their terms of service, they say they can remove both a person's content and delete the person's account for any reason whatsoever. Okay? In other words, they can kick you off if they don't like the color of your hair, and you have no real complaint. Not as far as the law goes. Not as far as any infringement on your rights go. It may not be fair, and you can try to start a movement to among your friends and supporters to get that policy changed, but do it through the terms of use in the case of YouTube or the terms of service in the case of live video. Don't try to invoke your right to freedom of speech because you don't have it here, and it's not going to carry any weight. Use it in terms of use or terms of service, and how such and such a video didn't apply, or how they didn't give you any warning. I believe that's going to carry a lot more weight. And when you make your complaints, make them reasonably. They don't need a reason to ban you, as they state in their terms of use and terms of service. They can ban you for any reason whatsoever, at their sole discretion. If you are unreasonable, you are much less likely to get a reasonable response back from them. Nobody is inclined to respond reasonably to someone yelling and screaming in their face, especially about things that don't apply, such as freedom of speech. That would be like someone coming over to my house and saying, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian, you shouldn't be eating meat." Their rules in their house don't apply to me in my own home. They apply to me if I'm in their home, and they have every right to say, "Don't eat meat in my home." Just like I don't allow people to fight in my home. And I'm not talking about fist fights, I'm talking about arguments. If people start arguments in my home with each other, I don't care if they're married or whatever, I throw them out. Tell them to come back when they're done fighting. So, do they have some right to complain because I've been unfair to them? No. It's my home. I set the rules. Same thing with live video and YouTube. So, base those arguments. Now, as far as this Ginsburg fella goes, as I say, I didn't see any violations of the terms of service. I'm sorry, YouTube calls it terms of use. I didn't see any violations of the terms of use. And I've heard much worse on YouTube that they allow. In fact, YouTube features videos that are obviously in violation of their own terms of use. So they are arbitrary. But I'd like to also hopefully reassure the atheists on YouTube, you're not being picked on. There have been people banned all over the place for various reasons, all over the spectrum. There have been other people who are nothing but troublemakers who've been allowed to stay. Again, all over the spectrum. So fight it by all means. Get your friends and supporters to write letters and make videos on your behalf. But do it based on the terms of use, not on your First Amendment rights. Because Congress has not passed any laws that prohibit your right to post this or that video on YouTube. Okay? Except where it infringes on other people's rights, such as copyright law. And that doesn't fall under freedom of speech. That falls under intellectual property issues. So, base your arguments on the right subject area, and I think you'll get a much better response from YouTube. I don't know that. I don't have a lot of faith in that, to be perfectly honest, but it's certainly going to work better than saying, oh, you violated my freedom of speech rights, because you don't have those rights on YouTube. So, good luck to Mr. Ginsburg on getting his account reinstated. I haven't seen any account that's been deleted that has had its videos reinstated as well. But at least he'd have his original subscriber base back. So good luck to Mr. Ginsburg on that. And for the rest of y'all, make your arguments in the right area, and you'll be far more effective than trying to claim a violation of your First Amendment rights. So, at least I would hope so. But in the case of First Amendment, it just doesn't apply. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. So, with that, I will say adios, hasta luego, and I will holler at y'all later.